Ladies and gentlemen, our next performer, the lovely and talented Molly Ziegler.
So, most of this story I actually wrote in like 5 years ago, but I fixed it up a little bit. It's called A Gastly Situation, and it happened when someone requested that I write a neurotic story about Kevin Costner and a Gastly, which is a small gas Pokemon from like the first game. Anyway, here it is. Note, this story takes place during the filming of Field of Dreams. It was the worst day of Kevin Costner's life. How could I have ever thought this was a good idea, Kevin Costner thought. He had just wanted them to like him. Kevin Costner had only wanted to be friends. He hadn't wanted to go into the old mansion. It was just too scary. And yet, Kevin Costner knew the risks the moment he had chosen dare over truth. He had always known, deep down, that this was how it would end. Maybe he had wanted this. Mist was beginning to form around Kevin Costner's body, where he leaned with his forehead against the corner of the wall. It soon rose to his ankles, then his knees. No. He and Phil, Ray, and Jim, they had all heard rumors, but nobody had known. It was just insane. Nobody had known. Then why did they make you tie your hands behind your back first? Whispered the nasty voice in Kevin Costner's head. He didn't like to listen to the voice. It never helped him make friends or nail interviews, and listening to it made him depressed. The voice in Kevin Costner's head was just a plain old grouser. But he had to admit, he was not in the best of moods already, and sometimes the voice had a point. Now was just one of those times. Metaphysical ripples extended from Kevin Costner's head to indicate a flashback. Kevin motherfucking Costner! Ray Liotta yelled as he kicked in the door to Kevin Costner's trailer, holding a 6-pack of O'Doul's and a bag with 3 lemons in it. You ready to get drunk, man? Phil Alden Robinson, the screenwriter to be exact, followed quickly with his hands in his pockets and a douchey grin on his little weasel face. At Kevin Costner, he made finger guns and one of those ch-ch sounds with his mouth. And behind Phil, there was Jim, James Earl Jones, the voice of God. Even thinking of him made Kevin Costner's ears all tingly. Kevin Costner desperately wanted Jim to be his best friend in the whole world. Jim was wearing a sensible jacket and winked at Kevin Costner on his way in. Kevin Costner blushed. Costner! Shrieked Ray. He slammed and opened O'Doul's tall boy down on the small table at which Kevin Costner was seated. Kevin Costner jumped, first at the screaming and then at the foam spraying into his face. Ray leaned in far further than was comfortable and laughed loudly directly into Kevin Costner's eyes. Nice one, Ray, said Jim, and Kevin Costner found himself drifting away into the sweet melody of his voice until Phil slapped him across the face. Spluttered Kevin Costner as the 3 other men laughed. Seriously, Kev, get a grip, said Jim reproachfully. Tears sprang to Kevin Costner's eyes as he coughed. What's the plan, fellas? Phil smirked, eyes raking over Kevin Costner from scalp to boots. He licked his lips. Ray, who had been drinking straight out of the O'Doul's keg, belched around 350 decibels. Truth or dare! Then he wiped his mouth and face with Kevin Costner's lapel. Then he screeched, and it's gonna be fucking awesome! You know it, said Phil, his eyes still locked uncomfortably on Kevin Costner, unblinking. Your turn first, Kev, Jim said, and Kevin Costner's anxieties melted away in an instant as Jim's warm eyes bathed him in kind light. Truth or dare, Jim said then, almost bashful. Kevin Costner's heart began to pound. Truth, Kevin Costner said, barely breathing. What? Pussy! Ray bellowed between shots from a skull-shaped glass bottle of O'Doul's tequila. Ray, shh, said Phil, laying a thick hand on his bro's shoulder. All right, Kev, said Jim soothingly. Kevin Costner tried in vain to resist arousal. Jim leaned closer, his forehead almost touching Kevin Costner's, and he said with a smile, "Do you believe in ghosts?" The scene dissolved into the present as Kevin Costner cursed his foolish, gullible heart. He should have been more careful. Maybe even asked why they were tying his hands behind his back. He could still hear Ray snickering. Or hell, he could have chosen truth one more time. But then Jim had called him a pussy in that sonorous voice, and Kevin Costner just couldn't stand it. Or any other number of things. He could have refused to go into the spooky old mansion. Really, what could Phil have done? Written him out of the script? Ha! Fat chance. Kevin Costner was the damn star of the show. The mist was now to Kevin Costner's shoulders. He was sweating despite the cool air. He wanted to call out for Phil or Ray or one of the others, but his voice caught in his throat as the thing behind him hooked his jeans in one slimy fang and ripped them down the back in a single pull. Kevin Costner squealed like a pig. Kevin Costner could have sworn he heard laughter echoing far off, but all that stopped mattering when the Gastly's tongue began to explore his anus. He cringed and shifted his weight and tried not to think about the fangs and also his sudden surprising hard-on. You can get those from fear, right? Or like stress? Kevin Costner thought desperately, squirming against the numbing sensation and chafing his boner against the lining of his jeans. Kevin Costner began to feel dizzy. He wasn't sure if it was the situation, or the damn it tongue on his fuck bare ass cheeks, or fuck you, Phil, his chafing mystery boner, or maybe even his fucking damn it mist, which was now enveloping him up to his twitching eyebrows. At least he didn't feel afraid anymore. He was a little afraid that he might fall over, but if this was the worst it was going to get, he would probably be okay. Only he still thought he might hear shit snickering coming from somewhere down below, and oh heck, this wasn't good. He was really hard and kind of starting to enjoy himself. What were the guys gonna say when he was done, and how did they know? Is this what they were laughing about? All at once, the probing tongue was removed. Kevin Costner's butthole twitched at the sudden absence of stimulation. He groaned and gritted his teeth, still lightheaded. The mist was still there, so he knew the Gastly was still around there somewhere. Was it still behind him? Was it looking at him? At his butthole? Watching? He shifted uncomfortably and tried to move his head into a better position. Maybe if he could see over his shoulder a little bit. But then Kevin Costner felt something he wasn't expecting. It wasn't the tongue, that was for sure. And while Kevin Costner wasn't real experienced in this kind of thing, he'd played with his own butthole before, and he was damn sure it wasn't a Peter either. Nothing solid. Did Gastlys have Peters, he wondered? It felt like a reverse fart. Sometimes when Kevin Costner was gassy and farted for a long time, a little bit of air would be sucked back up into his anus. It felt a lot like this. His anus twitched closed around the disturbance. Kevin Costner stood there, knees wobbling, lightheaded, not sure what to make of the intrusion. He was still hard as hell, and his anus was spasming like he'd eaten a 3-pepper casserole. Then somehow, the air inside Kevin Costner's anus began to swell and bulge, and his abdomen puffed up, pushing his dick against his stomach. "Mercy!" cried Kevin Costner. He gasped big lungfuls of the gas, feeling himself sway dangerously in the corner, a slave to the torturous dance being conducted in his insides. What followed, Kevin Costner could never be sure of how long or short it had been. All he knew was that after some excited groans and squeals blurred aurally through the flesh of his stomach, the movement in his bowels ceased. The pressure was still there, but it was mild. Kevin Costner was panting, and his chin was covered with drool. He felt barely conscious and could hardly feel his asshole, his cock uncomfortably smug in his jeans. Of course, he thought dimly, due to having a body made of gas, Gastly can slip into any place it wants. And then, just as suddenly as it had entered, the Gastly's gaseous form blasted forth from Kevin Costner's anus like the morning after Taco Bell. Kevin Costner let out a piteous howl and stumbled, crashing down on his face and dick on the dusty wooden floor. Somewhere in the pain and his weak attempts to right himself, Kevin Costner ejaculated. His ass was gooey with ectoplasm. There was blood coming from his nose. As the mist evaporated, Kevin Costner laid in a shameful heap, slimy ass exposed to the cool air of the mansion, hips attempting to shift the throbbing pain of his wet cock into a less agonizing position, and a mixture of tears, blood, and saliva all over his dirty face. His hands were still tied and he was exhausted. Kevin Costner wasn't sure if he could muster the energy to even call for help, let alone get up and make it to bed, to clean himself up, to get ready for another day of filming tomorrow. But his friends, and they were friends, weren't they? He'd taken the dare, by God, he'd survived it. We're sure to come get him soon, right? If he just waited patiently. Yes, he'd make it through this. It hadn't been real pleasant, but it was all over. He could even feel his mind clearing up a little. It wasn't so bad, really. And then he saw it. The mist was returning, thicker and faster. The Gastly was back, and it had brought its friends. It was the worst day of Kevin Costner's life.
God, Molly.
God,
Bless you.
damn it, I hate when people write shit better than me.
Always do that.
I know.
Yeah, you do.